Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome to another edition of eHeroes. Today's eHero is Dorien Morin Van Dam, and we're going to talk about social media because Doreen is a social media consultant, trainer, and a keynote speaker. And I think it's just going to be great because we're going to talk about a lot of the frequently asked questions. We're going to talk about, changes in social media and what to expect, from maybe, if you've hired a consultant before, what to expect from them. So welcome, Doreen, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
You know, I love the orange glasses.
Do you want to know the story behind it, or do you know the story behind it?
No, I don't know the story behind it.
Okay, well, it's part of my branding. It was an accidental branding thing that happened when I started as a social media manager. Orange was part of my logo because I'm from the Netherlands, and the Dutch people love orange. It's our national color. Because our king is of the House of Orange, has been like that for a long time. And we have a very boring red, white, and blue flag. So the Dutch have adopted orange. So I needed a profile picture for Facebook, and I didn't have one except one with a cardboard pair of glasses that were orange that I'd worn at a party. And so I started networking, going out as social media manager, and people would come up to me and go, "Oh, I recognize you. You're the girl with the orange glasses on Facebook." And I was walking around without orange glasses. And all of a sudden I was like, maybe I need to get some real orange glasses. So that's how that started. And this is probably my 8th pair or so, but it's really helped me as I go out on the speaker circuit. And if I go out networking, go to conferences, people definitely recognize me by my orange glasses. And it's kind of been a fun thing.
But there's been a lot of changes, not only in orange glasses, because I can't find them here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But social media has changed so much in 10 years.
Yes.
I don't know. When I got into it, I had already had the skills.
Mm-hmm.
I had already had the marketing. I knew, I had some background. But there's a lot of people getting into social media that honestly, I think have no business being in social media. But they don't have the fundamentals. So where do they go? I know that you guys have a course on your group page.
Mm-hmm.
But,
So I started out, I had been a stay-at-home mom
mm-hmm.
for 11 years. Before that, I was a nanny, so I had no marketing background. But my son started kindergarten, I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
So I took an online course, and this is like 9 years ago. We're talking about same time that you went in it. And at that point in my town of Myrtle Beach, where I lived at that time, there was nobody doing social media management, nobody. So I took this online course and put it on LinkedIn. I made a LinkedIn profile, and I got inquiries immediately. I need somebody to do social media because nobody locally was doing it. I feel very fortunate that I kind of rolled into this at this time. I started doing it for a charity for free. And that was my first client. I stayed with them for 3 years, but they gave me the instant title of social media director, which to me was like an instant, credibility thing, right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm the social media director for a local charity, going out networking. I started teaching classes to people. I literally was learning something, and the next week I was teaching something. And that's kind of how I got started. I feel for people that are trying to get into this industry now. Mm-hmm. Now there are classes, you can actually get a degree in marketing and social media that wasn't available. The local college in Myrtle Beach was not teaching social media management 9 years ago. And they were saying it's impossible because it changes so quickly. Of course, the fundamentals of marketing would still apply. So where do people go now? Online is still a very good place to find it, but you have to be willing to actually do that work. If you're a hands-on learner, an online course, you're probably going to get bored. You're probably going to step away. So then you should find like some kind of in-person boot camp. Those are available too, where you can go for 2 or 4 days or a whole week and just immerse yourself and learn. I think that's a good way. There's a lot of free online courses that you can take that give you a little bit of a taste. You might want to learn something about Pinterest or something about a chatbot, and you can take a mini course. But if you really want to learn social media management and really understand how to run your business, you really should invest in something a little more substantial. than, you know, a free course. And there's different ones out there that you can choose from, for sure.
I mean, they can always read my books, but you know, the one book was written a couple years ago, and it doesn't cover chatbots. It doesn't cover, you know, some of the things that are today. So, you know, there's what I've noticed over the last few years is that we have taken a product of social media, which is supposed to make us more social, and automated the process to keep us out from behind the computer. So now we're using these chatbots to automate, but doesn't that take the social out of social media?
It does, in a way. And so the shift that has happened is that instead of having social be a place where people come to give and share information, people are getting to the point where they just want that information about their friends too. And so if you want to really reach people, you have to do it through Messenger. It's all becoming that one-on-one. And I have an example with that, with my recent move. I just recently moved from South Carolina to Vermont. And, you know, it used to be that people, my friends, would come to me and pick up the phone and say, how are you doing? You know, I did post that I was selling my home, and then, you know, I got busy trying to sell my home all summer. Not a single friend reached out and said, hey, how's it going? Did you sell your house? Nothing. What they were doing, they were passively waiting for me to post something on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of being personal and reaching out to people, we've all been to the point where we sit back and watch it, and we're not participating anymore, which really is the whole point of social media, right? That we were participant actively making the news together. And people are still getting to the point where unless you have a one-on-one conversation with somebody on social media, they just don't see it anymore. I mean, things are changing. And I frankly was very disappointed with that. And so then when I did have a saying goodbye party, some people came up to me, and was one lady was kind of like mad at me. I didn't know you sold your home. I didn't know. When are you moving? Like, you know, like almost like it was my fault that I didn't post anything on social media because she didn't know, she didn't get her news. And it was that shocked me. But I really think that that's the shift we've seen. We used to be able to just post on social media, but still have those conversations. And now if you really want to reach somebody, you've got to do messenger marketing or make a video for somebody, or, you know, it's really, I've seen this huge shift, and I'm not sure I like it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about videos, because, you know, it used to be where, you know, we could just take our phone or our camera, record our video, pop it up on YouTube, share it over to Facebook, share it to LinkedIn. But now everybody has to go live. And, you know, I enjoy going live because then I can take the video from Facebook and pop it back over to YouTube. The problem is that now millions of people are going live, and it's overcrowded the social networks. And so we don't know who to follow anymore.
The ones who put in the most effort, who go live the most, who make the most outrageous claims, or who smooths behind the scenes to tell people to come to their, you know, it's that definitely there's some people out there that I follow that have good things to say, but it's definitely tribe. It's who you know, it's what you say, and whose back you're scratching. There's a lot of that going on. And it's just not in my nature to do that. So it's a very interesting, to me, a lot of that is fake. And I think that is the way to do it. So that genuine interaction and genuinely attracting people to your live is only reserved for a few good people that really know that have that charisma. And I just saw an awesome thing this morning on Facebook, the difference between an influencer and somebody who's influential. Somebody who's influential, I don't know if you saw it, but it must have been a different, I don't know who I was following that I saw it, but somebody who's influential is like Oprah, right? She's like, I need to lose weight. Somebody like, I don't know, Michael Jordan, I started out with $7 in my pocket. Somebody who's an influencer says, look at me, you need to follow me, you know, and it's a very different, it's the people who are and the people who want to be, the people who say that they are versus the people who actually are. And I think that shines through when you go live on Facebook or live on LinkedIn. It's the people who want to say, you know, look at me, look at all the stuff that I'm doing, I'm involved in all of this, versus the people who just share something in their life and people are attracted to that. It's the
Yeah.
stories that people want.
You know, I believe that genuine marketing will outshine influential marketing or now I can't even say it. I don't know why.
Influencer.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big fan of influencer type marketing. I think there's just too much hype. I think that we've seen this before is that somebody gets called out, especially, you know, Jay Shetty is a recent example, you know, and, you know, everything will collapse once people see, hey, fake it till you make it only goes so far. And then you got to prove yourself. And if you can't prove yourself, people will jump on you.
Yep. Well, for sure. So as far as Facebook Live, you know, when it was very hot about 3 years ago, we were told by Facebook, like, do it now because soon you might have to pay to have people watch you. And I'm not saying it's fizzled out, but a lot of the marketers, they've all switched to you know, LinkedIn Live.
Yeah.
And I am sure that, you know, prior to that, people were on Periscope. So, I mean, we marketers are jumping from platform to platform to try to be ahead of where other people are. And so we've got to show our clients, you know, where it's at. And, you know, it's hard to say you should be on LinkedIn Live to a client if you're not on it yourself, kind of thing. So,
with me, you know, a lot of my clients are lawyers and doctors, and to try to get them on Snapchat just never worked. And I, you know, there was just some elements of Snapchat that I like, some I hate. I stopped using it.
Me too.
For me, Twitter is very chaotic. I don't like using it. You know, I find that Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube are the three that I consistently use constantly. And, you know, even my lawyers and doctors are shying away from Instagram now because they're just not seeing the value of, and I find that if you're a local business, you really have to gear down your hashtags to be more local. Otherwise, you're going to get a global following that's never going to do anything for you.
Right.
And I think that there's so much that each network offers, but people don't explore everything that's there.
Right. So then the next thing what people need to do is they need to hire somebody, a social media manager or consultant, who can create a strategy just for you, for your business. You know, every business is different. Every business is a different audience. It has a different avatar, is a different, you know, ideal target client. Some businesses have more than one depending on what products they sell. But when you create a strategy, then you can start measuring things, because otherwise you just throwing spaghetti at the wall and you know how that goes. So I think that that's even small businesses investing a little bit of money or a lot, but some money into a strategy will really pay off, because without knowing where you start, you don't know when you're having success, right? Yeah. So it's really hard to measure social media return on investment, right? Because if it's not digital marketing and it's Facebook ads, it's hard to measure. What am I doing? What, you know, who's walking in the door? So what you have to do to measure return on investment, you have to know where you start. You have to do more of what works and less of what doesn't. So, you know, put more effort and more money into the things that are working, like the videos, if live video works, and then less of content that people aren't consuming, which some of your data will show you. And that's really how you measure that return on investment. And so eventually that wheel will keep spinning with content marketing, and web traffic will go up, and, you know, you'll be able to measure some things for sure.
You know, what I've been discovering is that, you know, certain photos, certain sayings, quotes, memes, they all work great on Facebook, but Facebook kind of diminishes the links that you put. So if you're sharing a blog post, it's just not going to get the insights or that you would if you shared a live video. So every product that you put out, every piece that you put out has to have a certain goal where you're going to put it.
Yeah.
And, you know, but it comes back to being visible. So you want to be visible, you got to do all this content, but you got to know, okay, it's not going to really benefit me to put all this on Snapchat or Instagram where I'm not going to be anyway. Let's focus on, three core, social
Right.
networks that,
Sure.
and just be visible there.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe in doing a couple of networks really well versus being everywhere and not doing them well. So yeah, absolutely. And so the one of the mistakes that I see business owners make is they do want to be everywhere, or they only want to work on the platforms that they're familiar with or that they like.
Mhm.
So some will say, well, I don't want to be on Twitter because I don't like it. Well, but if that's where your audience is,
Yeah.
you should go there. Or I don't understand Instagram. Well, if your avatar is between the ages of 20 and 30, you probably should be on Instagram and be active on there to try to reach them. So yeah, it's important to know and have that information available when you as a social media marketer work with a new business that you're starting to work with, to ask those questions. What are your goals? Who is your avatar? Who do you want to reach? What do you want to accomplish? And then set up 3, 6, 12 months goals, even 2 to 5 year goals, knowing that things will change down the line. But yeah, that I think is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make. They just start social media. We were talking about this in the green room. We have social media managers going out there not understanding what they're supposed to be doing, because they don't see the big picture, because they didn't make a strategic plan for their business and for themselves as social media manager, but also business owners who want social media and then don't really start with a plan. So I think both of those instances, you need a plan. Somebody who's starting out as a social media manager or wants to get into the industry needs to have a plan, needs to know where to network, how to grow, where to learn what, how to put their resume together, how to build a portfolio, how to get experience. That's all part of a strategy of getting into a new career. And people just aren't doing that. That's what you and I were talking about.
You had touched on avatar, and I love helping clients design that perfect avatar. But when I go into their insights, whether it be Facebook or anywhere else, and I look at the demographics that their ads, I mean, not their ads, but their content is going to, I find that it's usually the opposite of their ideal avatar. The person that they have in their brain that is that ideal customer. One person says, well, I want, psychotic women that are ages 50 to 50. And I'm like, dude, what? But then you look at who they're targeting, and it's 18-year-old teenagers that have no business being there anyway.
Who are never going to buy anything from them.
Right. So, you have to look at those insights and then retool everything that you're doing to meet that avatar. So if you want to go after crazy cat ladies, that's fine. But you got to know that, you got to get rid of all the people that really don't want to be there, or you don't want them to be there.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And they don't understand that concept. So they just constantly put out more content, and then they're just spinning their wheels.
Yeah, one of the funny things that happens, and that happens with almost every potential prospect that I talk to, is when I ask them who their target audience is, they go, everybody. Yeah. Everybody in the U.S., and they're so happy with their answer too. And I was like, no, that's the wrong. So, I have a process, I'm sure you do too, to try to get the answer out of them by asking, and I haven't written up any case studies, but I have, one client where it was very apparent that the messaging had been completely wrong. And it's an interesting case. It's a soccer club who all the messaging was the soccer dads. It was all about, the coaches and the dads, and it was a high level soccer. Well, guess who signs up the kids to play soccer when they're 4, 5, or 6? The moms. Yeah. So we completely changed the messaging, and it was very effective because we needed to talk to the moms. They're the ones who write in the checks. They're the ones who are signing up the kids. Once they get to be middle school and high school, then, more often dads are involved, either in carpool or high school soccer, that's a different level. But, in order to get those programs growing, you really needed to have a huge base of rec players, which was all the moms. So it was an interesting way to realize that, they had been kind of sending out the wrong messages. And that's like just like what we were just talking about.
The
Sometimes doing an internal review is a good thing.
I think one of the favorite questions I look at, and maybe it's just me, but I find it entertaining when someone asks, especially someone that's new to the social media world, and they want to be a manager to somebody. How much should I charge? And they're asking the audience that's other struggling social media people. And it's like, oh my God. They just open up a Pandora's box because people are saying, oh, you should charge 75, you should charge 100, you should charge 1,000. And it's all over the place with no rhyme or reason.
It's one of the most frequently asked questions in our social media manager group, and we don't usually let the questions in. We have pretty much refused those. We talk about packages and not charging hourly, and how to figure out what your packages should look like, because we have a global audience of social media managers. Somebody in South Africa versus somebody in Canada versus somebody in Germany is going to have a different cost of living, a different expectation, a different way of, amount of taxes you have to pay. So really, it's impossible to get the right answer. And what happens then, if we do allow a question in sometimes, is that people are going to slam each other. It's going to be a very negative conversation, and people are going to feel really bad. So the best advice I give people: start somewhere, put a proposal together. If they say yes, next time, double the money. If you get the money once, you can get it again. So double it, or at least, 1.5 it. Just go up from there. You got to start somewhere that you can live with. But then every time you put a new proposal together, don't give the same numbers. Somebody's already said yes to that. Put your numbers up. So we're talking more about strategy with pricing than actually giving people advice on how much they should charge, because it really is relevant where you live and where you come from and what your cost of living is. It's really, it is. It's important to note those things.
I find that when you give someone an hourly price, they try to calculate how many hours that you're actually going to do the job. So if you got it down to a science and you say, well, I'm going to charge $30 an hour, and it only takes you an hour, you just made $30. And people say, well, that's good. Yeah, but if you charge them by the project or by the month, they don't know how many hours you put in there. And so now you can make $300 an hour, and they're not even going to question.
Right. No, for sure. And especially and again, people that start out in this industry don't know that. But you get better at systems and batching things, and you can become very efficient at doing some of these tasks. You and I were talking about that in the green room as well. Having a daily schedule of when you're I usually, like you, create content first thing in the morning. I put my head down and I start creating content before I get into social media or onto social media, because my head needs to be clear. Or sometimes I'll go for a run and I create something. But batching content creation, and then engagement, and then, technical stuff, depending on the cycle of how you feel during that day. But you can certainly save money and save time as you've been working with a client for 3 months versus 6 months versus a year. I have 3 clients I've had for 5 years. I can do that work really fast, but still the same value is there, and so my price has gone up accordingly. So it's an interesting frequently asked question for sure. And usually when that's asked is because somebody who's just starting out.
And let's talk about your keynotes.
Okay.
You've been on, I guess you've given many keynotes. I mean, do you have a favorite place? Do you like to go, be invited to?
No, actually, most of my speeches aren't necessarily keynotes, but I have spoken at Inbound, which was overwhelming last year. It was, at that point, there were 22,000 people. I think that's the biggest conference I've ever. I was very overwhelmed. It was a great experience. I really wanted to be, my goal was to be on the stage of one of the 3 big marketing conferences in the US. And in my book, they were Inbound, Social Media Marketing World, and Content Marketing World. And I've applied to all 3 and I got into Inbound. So I'm really happy with that. I presented on retention marketing, which I think is something that not a lot of people talk about, which is why I think they picked me, which was good. And then I speak for a lot of associations. So I spoke and really niche groups. I talked at Event Camp in Nashville this year, which targets restaurant owners and hotels that hold events. So really talked about how they can use the power of social media, again, retention marketing, of somebody who's, rented from you before, or a hotel that has, has this hall and they're renting it out to associate, how you can get people back, or how you can people in, even if you're a wedding venue, how you can use referral marketing. So that was kind of a fun thing as well. A couple of years ago, about 2 years ago, I did a lot of Facebook and Facebook Live stuff, video marketing. I talked about not necessarily the technical stuff about video. I talk about getting past the fear, because my thing is that I have a lot of clients who want to do video, but they will not even use their smartphone to take a video because they're worried about what they look like online, or what, they can't get past that. So I don't care how much technical stuff I can give them. If they're not going to push the button, so I talk about how to get past that fear. And I have like a little system in place that people can follow, how to get past that fear on your own, like basically lock yourself in a room and create this video, and there's a process to it. But I talk about that too. And the 4 fears that people talk about, it's an acronym for fear, is fear of failure, which, if you're yourself on video, it's fine. Fear of expense. And I always tell them the most expensive piece of equipment that you need is what you already have, right? My smartphone was $800 when I bought it. And you can create incredible videos with a smartphone. The third thing that I talk about then is appearance. People are very worried what they look like. So I tell them to focus on their brand message. Well, but you and I have experience. So talk about, a small business owner who, is worried about what they look like. And I had somebody cry, that I was the one using the video, using the smartphone, and she was still crying the thought of having to be on video. So appearance is a big thing. So I tell them to talk to me instead of the phone and talk about their brand. Why did you start your business? What do you love about it? Keep that in mind. Now talk to me. So switch that appearance. And the last one is reputation. People just think that if they go on video, that people might think that they're conceited, or that they're, so those are kind of the 4 myths or the 4 fears that I talk about with video marketing. And then I give them very practical tips on how to get started. So that's a very popular talk that I do.
Yeah, I was coaching a client, and I said, look, it's basically a 3-minute video. What's taking so long? She says, well, I've done retake and retake and retake. I worked on this thing for 15 hours. I'm like, what? 15? I said, give me the script. And I rewrote it. I said, just read the darn thing. And she stood in front of the camera, read it. Okay, you could tell, but it was better than, and she put it out there, and she picked up, I think, 3 clients right away.
People loved it.
And I said, you wasted 15 hours when you could have just put the video out and started making money. She said, yeah, but it wasn't perfect. I said, it's never going to be perfect. Put it out there.
It's not. And that's one of the tips, it's posting it is better than postponing it. Right. You just got to put the video out, but it's intimidating, and people have a real fear of public speaking. People have a fear of video. I mean, it's real. I have an extreme fear of heights. So I use that as a story when I talk about fear, that, that it's real. I will physically be ill. I will literally shake if I'm somewhere where I feel unsafe. I'm not afraid in an airplane, but when I'm outside and I can feel, it's all the elements, the air, it's the wind, it's all of that. When I feel that and look down, I'm physically ill. So I understand when people say that they're worried, but there are things you can desensitize yourself with video marketing. So that's a big one, because a lot of people out there, a lot of social media managers, a lot of consultants, a lot of industry experts are talking about how, and technical stuff, and using this camera and this light and all of that. But if you can't get people to even push the button, that's not good. So yeah, that's a popular one that gets picked that I get, that I talk about.
So how do my listeners get a hold of you? Where do they go?
Okay, well, I love to connect with people on LinkedIn. I'm really trying to push LinkedIn more these days. So I'm Dorien Morin Van Dam on LinkedIn. But if you put in Morin Media, which is the name of my business, you will find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn as Morin Media as well. So
And
that's the easiest way.
they can find you on a website.
Yeah, morinmedia.com.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
Yeah. See, and that's another thing. When I started my business that long ago, it was easy. It was easy to claim a website as well as
Yeah.
all the social media handles. I have more media for just about everything, including YouTube, and it's much harder now. That's people get hung up on that too. I want to have a business, and this handle's not available. Just start creating content and put it out there. It doesn't really matter. Once people find you, they don't really care what you're called online.
And for all those who are struggling and you want to become the authority in what you do, write a book. I mean, I've written 23 books in 6 years. Maybe I'm not the authority in everything, but people say, hey, Rob, you're the go-to guy for this. You're the guy that this. I mean, my latest book came out almost a year ago. It's called Rob versus the Scammers. I take on the Visa, MasterCard phone scammers. And they're always going, Rob, you're the scammer guy. Yeah, but I was the SEO guy. I was the social media guy. I was the. So every year it changes.
That's good. Well, and that also shows that you are in charge of your destiny. You are in charge of your personal brand. I tell this we just talked about our kids, tell this to children as well, and parents of teenagers. But even if you're not on social media, that's branding yourself. But whatever you're currently doing on social media, as a business owner, as a teenager, as a college student, it's branding you for something. So you're better off being in charge of what you're branding yourself for than leaving it up to you clicking a bunch of stuff on YouTube or, reading articles and that showing up as that's your brand. You're better off being in charge of what you want to be known for. So you writing the books, you kind of write your own story there. That's awesome.
And speaking of being in charge, the social media networks are always changing. They own the platform, you don't. So if you're going to put content out there, make sure that you don't put all your eggs in one basket, that you produce some content to put on your website, that you produce maybe a podcast, a book, something that's on your own platform that you're in charge of.
Very good advice.
So I want to thank Dorien for being here today, and everybody out there, please visit her on her social networks. Pick up the phone and call her if you want to. And she does answer her phones.
Yes.
Visit her on morinmedia.com. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. And you can always visit me at anspachmedia.com. Hey, adios.